good. Yep, should be good now. All right. Here's episode 6, Shin-Arken podcast with myself, Shin, and Arken. What's up? What's up, Arken?
What's up, buddy?
Yo, yo.
How you been?
Not bad. Yourself?
Just hanging out, chilling. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Messing with this meta.
The meta.
And stuff. The
and
meta.
Stuff. The meta.
The meta.
The Condi. We'll just call it the Condi now. We can just call it the Condi. We're playing in the Condi.
No, we are. It's. You know, honestly, the funny thing about that is even with that, it feels like as my Guardian hits like a truck now. So something's been changed there too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but then again, that's all power classes when they, choose the right runes and sigils. So it really isn't just exclusive to mine, but it's definitely changed a little bit.
Yep.
There's
also the evolution of Hambo. I mean,
really, the evolution? I thought they nerfed it a little bit.
They did.
They nerfed bow like a crazy,
They did.
Good luck with bow. I mean, bow is still good for the, your burst skill to get rid of condis, but outside of that, man.
I've run into some Hambo before, and it's not so much the nerfs hit it, yeah, but it also adapted to the rune and sigil changes. So now it's just this might stacking monstrosity.
Mm-hmm.
So while the bow isn't stupid anymore, where you can pin down someone and then basically melt them, you can still do a fair amount of damage because of all the might you're getting from all your rune sets and whatnot.
Absolutely. And not many classes have a way to steal or take away your boons. I mean, you have the Thief, but even then, it's only one boon, per Larcenous Strike, and then you have the Mesmer, and even then, not many Mesmers actually run that spec to remove it. So there are very few. I mean, a Guardian can do it, but no one's going to take that trait. So it's like there's nothing to actually fight against that from any profession. You know what I mean? To have those might stacks.
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy.
Now, that being said, I have, at least in a few encounters, I've run into some Shatter Mesmers that have been taking boon removal on Shatter.
Have they?
Yeah, and it actually ended up killing me the other day.
Did it really?
Yeah, because I wasn't expecting it, and then I'm like, because I had my stability up, I was going for him, and then all of a sudden I had no more stability. I'm like, uh-oh.
Right. No, it's true, and it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you don't really see that anymore. That's I think that's kind of far and few in between. I haven't seen that. I bet you that's someone just testing out something, I'm sure.
Yeah, could be. I mean, it was a one-off case, but even still, you never know.
No, you never know. People are still experimenting with things.
Yeah, we're only about 2-ish weeks out from the patch.
No, yeah, that's it. And then people are still doing it, but I still think we've kind of found, where everything's,
Yeah. I'm gonna move the video.
So I mean, my build really hasn't changed much, honestly, except the runes and sigils. Everything else is still relatively the same. I'm sure. What about yours, dude? Has it changed any?
Actually, yeah. The Handtastic build has changed somewhat decently. I mean, it still has the first two. Basically, what I did is I took the how before it was a 0-0 and then it was full of the that it was the 6-2-6 or 30-0 or 30-10-30 or whatever towards the end.
Right.
What I actually did is I actually shaved off 10 or 2 points, whatever system you want to use.
Right.
I shaved out the last 2 of both defense and discipline, cut out Merciless Hammer and Burst Mastery, and stuck all of those points up in strength.
Right.
And I got more health from it, and I got Confusion on Interrupt.
Yeah, I see a lot of warriors running that too now. Not too many, but it seems like a decent change.
Yeah,
I mean?
It's more with my build. It's more about the mind game aspect than anything, because people see
games.
Yep, people see Confusion and they freak out.
Confusion hits like a truck, dude. I mean, even with like no condition damage, it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna attack. That's the thing that's scary.
A 4-second or a 4-stack of Confusion hits for like 262 or something like that.
Right.
So it's like, and with the funny thing is, when I was messing around with it, and often enough when I'm using it now, I can get that thing to 8 and 12 stacks pretty often.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Easily, dude. Because there's no internal cooldown on it, so there's really no way you couldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. So I just have to hope that they're casting something or something will trigger it when I interrupt them.
I hope so. I mean, again, that's the only thing that would benefit from you, and that's fine too. That's understandable. That's how it's supposed to work. So that actually makes sense.
Yeah, but I like it because it's still that situational gameplay. It's still, I don't get the benefit of distracting strikes unless I interrupt them, which means I have to be smart with how I time interrupts.
Well, not to mention that a lot of skills in this game are instant, so you're not even gonna really have much of a chance to even do that, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So you gotta be really careful.
Yeah, the benefit is just I can hurt people a lot more with both weapons now.
See? Pain is good.
Much pain, good. Power build, yay.
No, absolutely. All day, dude.
But yeah, as far as the what we've seen of the evolution of the meta before we jump into the Mesmer stuff, Kandi's
Still strong.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Kandi's
Especially
still
with
strong.
like Balthazar runes. Oh my god.
Oh yeah,
Dude, are you kidding me? I get an engineer's incendiary powder now it's now a 7-second duration on a 10-second internal cooldown. I'm like, really? I mean, that was already tough to fight before. I mean, that applies to all condition builds, but still, my gosh, it's really emphasized now how ridiculously strong that is. So that's been not. I mean, you have also, again, the tankiness of those specs, so nothing's really changed in that regard. You're still encountering those a lot.
Yeah. Crate runes are the ones that I've been messing around with for my condition builds, and those are...
How do you like it?
They are amazing. Like, crate runes, it's bleed damage, well, it's condition damage, then bleed duration, then more bleed when you're hit, and then even more bleed duration, and then when you use your elite, the target gets poison, torment, and bleed.
And see, now that is going to be strong for classes who have short cooldown elites.
Yep, like Warrior and Thief.
Warrior, Thief, oh my god. This is just like with Lissa, remember?
Yep.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Same thing. It's insane.
The thing about Lissa, though, is Lissa was way too much.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still think it's strong, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially for people who don't spec into condition removal, I still think it's very powerful.
Oh, yeah, Lissa's still good. Lissa's still strong. It's just not broken like it was before.
Right. Because you don't get stability anymore. It's not possible. So
yeah, exactly.
That definitely really helped. I mean, even still, I still find it to be incredibly strong due to the fact you're still removing 5 Kandis. And in a lot of situations, you're really not going to I mean, yeah, you can have more than 5 on you, obviously. But in most situations, 5 is really going to be the maximum any one person is going to put on you. I mean, unless you're dumb enough to consistently get hit by constant AoE.
Or Spite.
Exactly. So, well, even then, yeah. But with that, you're going to be removing a lot of Kandis from Spite. So
yeah, that
would definitely help. So I still think it's really strong. It's not nearly as strong as it was before, but still very it's emphasized on those short, cooldown elites.
Yeah, would you say it's been brought down to a point where it fits more with what all rune sets should be, where they fit they're strong and they fit a niche, but they're not broken, overwhelming?
Absolutely. And I say this because a lot of runes have been they've been buffed. A lot of them have been. I mean, we're not just talking about Crate, Balthazar, Strength. I got to tell you about this one. This is ridiculous. I was fighting an Elementalist the other day, and just so we'll talk about Elementals some other time. They're gods again. I'm just going to let you know that. But on the same token, I was fighting this dude, and he's running Runes of the Pirate.
Yeah.
That thing, it summons a parrot on the 6th one, right?
Yep.
The parrot hits like a freaking truck, and it has a ton of health. I mean, I even tried it, and remember, it can also be buffed.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm sitting here going, getting hit for 1,500 damage, non-crits, mind you, non-crits, 1,500 damage. The thing also evades while it attacks. You know what I mean? And you can buff it.
Yep.
So so it's like perfect for Elementalists because of the simple fact that, they can constantly buff themselves and allies very close to them.
Which includes the bird.
Exactly. So the bird is hitting like a truck constantly and it won't die.
Yeah.
So imagine if you give it 10 stacks of might, that thing's going to crit for 3k.
Yeah.
So that needs, again, that's sort of brought with the other AI, but oh my god.
But you got to remember, or another thing you got to remember about that rune set, I think maybe it's not Pirate. There's another one, I think it's of the Flock, but it also summons a bird, but this bird can cause blind.
No, this one doesn't cause blind. It just does massive physical damage.
Okay.
And it evades and has a ton of health. So it's unbelievable in terms of AI. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is literally. I honestly think it's stronger than a Ranger Pet because I've never seen a Ranger Pet hit that hard on a non-crit ever.
I have.
But on a non-crit consistently without buffs. You know what I mean? That's.
Yeah, in that case, it's more so the fact that it can be buffed by, and the LA is going to be putting out a lot of might and a lot of buffs. Whereas Rangers, they can't really do that.
Exactly. So that was something that I've seen, and honestly, I was like, holy crap, dude. I mean, yeah, most AIs now hit like a truck, except spirit weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that great? That's like the only AI that just doesn't hit like a truck anymore. No, but it's true. Like majority, even the like I don't know if you've done like any testing with your builds, like in the Heart of the Mist. You know how those NPCs that are class NPCs?
Yeah.
They hit like trucks too now.
Oh jeez.
Svanir and Chieftain hit like trucks again, harder than usual. Everything hits much harder now.
That may have still been that bug I was telling you about before the podcast. I'll have to go back and look and test, but because I didn't even know there was a bug going on with it. But yeah, I'll have to go back and double check on that for you. But I think that a lot of that truck stuff, a lot of stuff hitting like a truck, was because of the bug. Because it was only someone, or like it was just NPCs in general.
Yeah.
I think they may have fallen into that category.
I hope so, because again, NPCs should never hit that much and be that sustainable. Holy crap! Again, I couldn't believe it. I even tried it. I was playing with a couple friends. I'm like, you know what? Let's all run Rune of the Pirate. You saw 3 birds running around constantly. They won't die, and I guarantee you, those birds were just destroying everything in sight. So it sort of boggles my mind a little bit, but that's part of the meta. I mean, the Kandi meta is still strong. The power meta. The power meta definitely feels like it's gotten a little stronger due to the might stacking. Yeah. Like it definitely feels like it's been brought up a little bit. Yeah. The AI meta, oh my god, that is definitely ridiculous right now. Yeah. So it definitely feels like we're moving more towards more damage. Yeah. You know what I mean? Overall. Yeah. And I thought they kind of wanted to slow down the game. Yeah. You know what I mean? I thought that was their intention.
But at the same time, you got to be careful because we don't want to go into, bunker wars.
Right. But we still kind of have that in the form of Kandi tanks, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's still kind of there, in a sense. It's just, it's more emphasized now with the rune sets and sigils that have been changed. So those who run those Kandi builds are now, or those bunker Kandi builds, I'm sorry, are now even more damagey because of that. So yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it kind of fleshes out in the coming weeks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it definitely, I would say all of the metas, despite things like the crit damage change, the ferocity change, and the stuff that hit the power, I'd still say, like you said, the power meta is still pretty strong simply because of all the might stacking.
Absolutely.
Also, like I've seen a resurgence in Axe Shield X Warriors because of the new strength trait we got.
Dude, I've always run Axe Shield when I play my warrior. It's still ridiculously strong. The thing hits like a truck. Yeah. And I'm still being highly sustainable through the Signet. The Signet barely got touched.
Yeah, the Signet is still a little ridiculous. Yeah, it's still a little ridiculous.
So I'm still running around highly mobile on my warrior, critting stuff with my axe like a beast. So it's like, nothing's really changed for the warrior. In my opinion, they're still really strong. It's just they're not as face roll with bow because they can't instantly destroy you with their, with
all the combos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fair, I guess, but still, I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Warriors, we're not quite as face roll anymore with certain builds, but we're still strong. Healing Sig is still a little ridiculous. But outside of that, we've been brought down a good point.
Yeah. I think you have been, but again, in some cases, I still think it needs to be looked at just a little bit more. Yeah. I don't want it to be nerfed into the ground. Trust me, that's the last thing I need. Yeah. But again, it seems like finding a middle ground is so ridiculously difficult. Yeah. Because, and the funny thing about it, and this is to go a little off topic because I know we're talking about Mesmers, but like Elementalists in the beginning of the game were incredibly strong. Yep. They're strong again. Oh yeah. They're incredibly powerful now. So, and it only took one patch, kind of like how the Warrior took one patch before. Yep. So it definitely feels like, it's like, I saw your analogy a while ago with the turning wheel. Yep. In terms of like balance. Yep. It's exactly just that. Yep. And we witnessed it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's when you got so many moving parts, it's one thing can change a lot. One patch can change a lot.
Absolutely.
I think more than anything it was the sigil and rune changes, but other things also affected it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But yeah, I suppose if there isn't anything else on the meta or anything like that, we can jump into the Mesmer stuff.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Absolutely. Let's do it. I'm here to talk about Mesmies.
Mesmies. Have you had a chance to try out Mesmer at all since the last podcast? Or
I've been playing a little bit, only because of the ridiculous AI damage, and I wanted to see it for myself, and I couldn't believe it with my own eyes. So, yeah, I did play it a little bit. Nothing has really changed in terms of like the Condi Mesmers.
Yeah.
The power Mesmers hurt like a truck now because of their AI more so than before.
Yeah.
They even had a bug before with power block where it triggered on your auto attack. I mean, you could like put it. That was ridiculous. Imagine putting your auto attack on a 10-second cooldown.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
So that got fixed though.
Yeah.
So that doesn't work anymore. But yeah, man, Mesmers.
Yeah, power block. I think I've run into a few power block Mesmers before, and it's interesting because when you get interrupted by them, it hurts. You can't.
Oh yeah.
You can't do anything. But by the same token, I've been able to handle power block Mesmers fairly readily, despite that.
Have you been? Very good. Well, that's again for me personally. I haven't really encountered too many.
Yeah, they're around, but I think the ones I ran into were mainly people testing stuff out, as you were talking before.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen an overwhelming like surge in power block Mesmers or anything.
No, me neither. I've been seeing a lot of like interrupt Mesmers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in terms of the mantra. Absolutely, I've been seeing that. But not so much anything else. I mean, it seems like the Condi tanks with like Clone on Death or PU Mesmers are still there.
Yeah.
The Shatter is still pretty much there, but again, the AI still hits like a truck. So you're looking at a mixture of like Shatter with Phantasm now.
Yeah.
So now it's like you kind of have the best of both worlds, and that's kind of scary.
Yeah, that's actually the build that I've been running on my Mesmer since well before the patch. When I had gotten my level or my Mesmer to 80, and I was looking around for builds, because when it comes to alts, I don't typically do the whole build crafting type thing I do with my warrior. I kind of just hobo it and leech off of someone else's build, like on Into the Mist or something like that. And so I found a build on Into the Mist. It was probably like the top build on there. I opened it up. I'm like, oh, this looks good. Let's use this. So so what it was is it was listed as like a Shatter Phantasm hybrid build, or like it was like something hybrid 2.0 build or whatever, and it's just that. Right. It's a Shatter Phantasm hybrid build power that used PU. I've since swapped out of PU, at least temporarily at the request of a viewer, to mess around with it. And it's just as strong. Like, it doesn't need PU to be powerful because it runs Knight's armor and I think Zerker trinkets, and it's pretty powerful. It runs, I think, greatsword, sword, pistol, and it's
right.
I've been able I'd say I'm a decent Mesmer player, but that's mainly because a lot of my play has carried over from playing the warrior as much as I have, like just the general combat awareness type stuff. I'd call myself a decent Mesmer, but I can 1v2 people on mine simply because, and that's not using PU, that's not using Condi, and they're definitely powerful. Mesmers definitely are powerful, especially with what you were talking about with the Shattered Phantasm combos.
Exactly, and that's again the biggest issue is again it was going back to what we have always talked about, you and me, where you just can't have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And that right there is,
Well, the thing about this build though is it's, even though it's using Knight's armor, it's still fairly squishy. It's not
absolutely.
It's not. I'm not getting like the best of both worlds as far as like damage and tankiness. It's more the best of both worlds between the two aspects of the Mesmer summons, the Phantasms and Shatters. It doesn't use conditions all that much. It's not tanky, but it does use both aspects of the summons. So I mean, I think in that aspect, I think it's fine to have best of both worlds because it's still one general aspect of the class. It's just two different aspects of it, two different sub aspects.
Dude, my mind just melted with what you just said. I'm trying to figure it out. Like, what?
Basically,
Can you explain that again?
basically, I think it's fine because it's all damage. It's not you're not getting the best of both worlds with like damage and tankiness, or damage and conditions, or damage and control. I think it's fine to have this best of both worlds with Shatter and Phantasm, because they're both damage. They both share the same sort of weakness as far as how you can handle it, and what the Mesmer has to give up for it. Because Mesmer, in order to do as much damage, the Mesmer has to give up tankiness to do it. Because the thing with Mesmers that I've noticed is, if you go tanky on a Mesmer, you will not do any damage. You do very little damage because your Phantasms, your summons, your Shatters in general, scale well with power and conditions. Or I should say, scale well with power, and the conditions scale with the condition damage. But if you don't build for either of those, it hurts. Like the baseline damage, from what I've noticed on Mesmers, is it's not that much. You need to scale it with a stat in order for it to be really good. And
and that's true.
And running soldiers on a Mesmer, you don't do enough damage.
No, the damage is definitely no. What I meant to say is that, like, yeah, you're right. They do have to give that up to actually do it. But what I was talking about is having both, massive physical damage through your Shatters and through your Phantasm seems like it might be a little too much. I mean, granted, you are giving up quite a bit of defense, but again, it's difficult because at the same token, you have your Shatters that do massive AOE damage, or just single target on a single target. I just said that twice. Wow. And then you have your Phantasms who, again, hit like trucks. And in some cases, if not all cases, your target is not destroying those Phantasms. So, yeah, I agree that, again, giving up the defenses is definitely what makes it, a little more balanced. I just don't think that having your active as well as your passive damage via AI, to be... I think if you want to do both, it should be like a hybrid.
Yeah.
In a sense, but I don't think you should be able to... I don't know. Maybe I'm a little off center there, but it just feels like it's a little off,
Yeah.
Especially with, again, AI hitting, like, again, I've been hit by the Swordsman for 8k, and then the Warlock for 10k, and not to mention the Shatter afterwards or before. So it's definitely quite a bit.
Yeah, I hear you on that. By the way, I apologize if there's any background noise. I've got some visitors right now, so they're watching a movie.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
Yeah, but as far as like with the whole, I agree with you on the AI thing. Like Mesmers definitely heavily benefit from AI, but the one thing to remember is Mesmer AI isn't really. It's not like Spirit Rangers. It's not like Spirit Weapon Guardians. It's not like
Spirit Weapon Guardians.
I'm throwing it out there. They're in there too. But it's also not like Mini Mansion Necros. AI is part of the Mesmer class. They would not be able to survive without the AI that they have.
I agree.
While yes, AI can still be a little ridiculous, I think with Mesmers it's a little more balanced because A, it's part of the class, it's justified, and B, there seems to be a decent amount of balance when it comes to how the numbers are tuned with Mesmers, and like the fact that in order for your clones to really do anything, you have to be active. You have to manually use them. They don't just do anything by themselves. You don't spawn a bunch of clones and then suddenly your opponent melts because of it. You have to do something with those. You have to essentially...
Well, for Shatters, yes.
Yeah, for Shatters.
I agree.
Phantasms, yes, I can see where the issue would be. Phantasms are a bit closer to the line of, summon and forget. It's hard to really say because Phantasms are... Yes, they're AI. They're very similar to like spirits and minions, but at the same time, they're also clones and used as part of that shatter. So it's like they're powerful, but there's a certain amount of justification for them. But at the same time, they're also part of the problem when it comes to AI. Phantasms are one of those gray areas that's really really hard to say what to do with them because
Well, it's true, and again, their class is based around that, and I completely and get that. But I've also thought, and again, I could be wrong. I always thought that their class was based around Shatters because their mechanic is Shatters. It's not Phantasms or AI. I mean, their class mechanic is Shatters. You know what I mean? So that's what kind of leads me to believe that you're not supposed to just like let your AI do all the work for you. You're supposed to, shatter at the right times, whether it be from dazing, confusion, interrupt, and invulnerability through distortion. So that's why I don't think that AI or the Phantasm should be ridiculously powerful. The shatters are where it's supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and that's what I believe it to be. Just that's where I think it needs to be a little more balanced at. That I don't think Phantasms should be hitting like hit noodles. But at the same token, when you're doing more damage than a player, that seems to be the issue.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Well, another thing that I've noticed about Phantasms is they all mimic an aspect of another profession. Like Phantasm Berserker, it's the great sword warrior. Phantasm.
That's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, or like Phantasmal Warlock. That's the one that is it the mage or the warlock that does damage based on conditions?
Warlock.
Yeah, I think it's
10% more.
Yeah, like the warlock. That's kind of like the Scepter 3 necromancers.
Right.
It's that. It's cool that they did that, but that may also be part of what is causing some of the issues. Because, like, with the Phantasmal Berserker, it scales ridiculously well with power.
Oh, absolutely.
Or like with the Warlock, you've got, it scales, just part of its aspect is scaling well with the number of conditions on your opponent. And when you are running a condition build, like a PU condition build, you're already doing a lot of damage with those conditions. So it's in that case, it's just too much, I think, for any health pool to really handle. So, I mean, it's a cool design aspect, and I'm not saying it should be removed or anything. I think that just might be where some of the balance of Phantasms might come from. But, again, like, when it comes to Phantasms, it's really hard to say if they're broken or not. I think, again, it's more the case of what build uses them, or like how they're used in certain builds. Like if you run a full Phantasm build, full Phantasm or like full Connie build with Phantasms, then yeah, you're running into the AI doing the work for you. But like if you're running a Shatter build or like a Shatter hybrid build, I don't think it's as bad with the AI simply because of the fact that you are using Shatters. You've got the Shatter aspect involved in that.
No, and again, that's what I mean is that if you're giving up, defenses while putting out significant damage, I get that. And that's exactly why it is fair in that regard. I guess mostly what I'm talking about is the tankiness combined with that, whether it be from PU, Clone on Death. But then again, that's not power, that's condition damage most of the time. So, yeah, I agree. I just think, again, bring down the damage on Phantasms a little bit, man. I mean, holy crap. I can't even do 8k on a single attack. Or 10k on a single attack,
Yeah, like the gameplay that I have running for the stream at the moment, I've been kind of watching the numbers on the Zerker that was being spawned, and it's only hitting upwards of maybe 4k tops. So, I mean, this is, again, going back to what I think may have just been that bug that got fixed recently, because this build...
That maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it uses... It's Knights, so it's still max power and... Or wait, main stat on Knights is what?
Toughness?
Okay.
Yeah.
But even still, the numbers can't be too different as far as the actual damage being dealt, because of the fact that you're only getting a little more if you were to switch to power or whatever. Now, the crit damage, I could see that increasing at a fair amount. But even still, 8k seems a little ridiculous. Going from 3k to 8k on a Zerker.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was talking about the swordsman.
Oh.
The swordsman. The sword, the poke.
Yeah.
A little poke that it does, and and then half your health is gone. I mean, the Phantasm hits hard too. I haven't really tested the Phantasm. I'm not too sure exactly how much they hit for.
Yeah, the Zerker. That would make sense because I haven't actually tested the. I've never really used sword Mesmer. I've always been like great sword pistol or something along those lines. But yeah, now that you mention it, I have seen a surge in sword Mesmers, so that could have something to do with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, they hit. It's. I think most of them are power, so they definitely feel like they are giving up a little bit of toughness. But again, when you can take advantage of both of those, it seems a little much. So, again, bring it down a little bit, but don't let them, don't make them too weak. Obviously, or else the concept behind phantasms is pretty much lost.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it, you know.
Yeah. Overall, I really like how I think as far as what Mesmer brings to the game, it's a very unique play style. It requires a very different mentality to play well than, say, Warrior or Near or Necro or Guardian or any of that. Like, it's a very, very different play style from a lot of things, because there's a lot more setup, a lot more mental strategy that has to go into making a Mesmer useful, because if you just run out there and start doing things without summoning anything, you're gonna die, because you can't take advantage of your shatters or the fact that Mesmer runs heavily on mind gameplay in small situations, at least.
Right.
But like with a Warrior, it's all about you. Like, there is no setup. You go in and you do stuff. You don't have to make any. You don't have to prepare anything. The most of that we have is like with the longbow fire field, and then like pin down or throwing something through it. That's about all of the strategic like setup gameplay that a Warrior has. Everything else is very much either just layering things on or just going to town, going like in their face.
Yeah, there's no deceptive gameplay as a Warrior compared, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Warrior game, this is why a lot of times I'll recommend to newer players that they run Warrior or Guardian, because it's very straightforward gameplay. You go in and you do stuff. Like, all of your things have impact that don't really rely on other things to have maximum impact. Whereas you look at an Engineer or a Mesmer, you have to have a fair amount of setup to really get the most out of your skills.
No, it's true. It really is. It feels like that Guardians and Warriors in that aspect are more reactive gameplay.
Yep.
And that's okay. I like that kind of play style, you know?
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I play Warriors. I don't have to really worry about screwing up combos or I should take that back. My build is heavily built around combos, but I don't really have to worry about like missing that fire field that I placed down back there, or like not having a second confusion on my opponent. Otherwise, my entire strategy goes out the window, or I lose a lot of effectiveness. No, with Warrior, it's a lot more straightforward, and I can just kind of go to town. But whereas with my Mesmer, I have to be very aware of, okay, where are my clones? How many of those clones are actually phantasms? Do I want to shatter them? Which shatter do I want to use? How is my step? Like, there's a lot of things that I need to be aware of, and be aware of what my opponent is aware of. It's very much. It's like I during one of my streams I actually made mention of this. Mesmer v Mesmer is like a game of chess. You really have to know. You have to really mind game your opponent.
Mm-hmm. No, it is, and that's the whole concept behind it, and that's cool because it was exactly the same way. It was exactly the same type of play style in GW1, and that's cool. People have their play styles, and I have no issue with that. So I really didn't have a problem again. But one of the things that I've also found to be sort of an issue, but this kind of goes back just for the whole mechanic behind stealth, is, you know, there's no counter to stealth as of yet, and I'm hoping there eventually will be. So any sort of, you know, access to stealth from any profession is still, you know, giving you a significant advantage. I mean, I guess obviously that's part of that profession, and I understand that, but I think there needs to be some sort of, you know, way to defend yourself against that instead of just swinging at air, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's one of those gray areas where it's really hard to say what needs, because I don't know, Mesmers in certain aspects feel really balanced, and in other aspects they seem very broken.
Absolutely. So again, but that's the thing, is that when we're going through these patches, it's like what we've been discussing the whole time. It only takes one patch to either royally screw someone, a profession, or just make it so ridiculously powerful that it's like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? That's all it takes, and we've seen it. It even happened in the last patch.
Yeah.
You know, it's there. It happened the one before that, and it seems like that, again, your analogy, when they turn the wheel, it's so ridiculously evident that they like to go to the extremes, you know what I mean? And then that kind of needs to, you know, go about the wayside. They should do shaving, but again, more often, because I don't want to wait another 4 months for, you know.
Yeah,
so that would be nice.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I mean, it's like I had mentioned before as well. There are so many moving parts in this game that it's very hard to really do anything without doing that, without either royally screwing something or royally buffing it. the shaving is what made, like, doing things like the sigil and rune changes, while very good, also just throw just a giant spanner in the works as far as balance goes, because you don't know how all of those sigil and rune changes are going to work with all of the different builds, all of the different profession mechanics. So I mean, you can have a general idea on a case-by-case basis, but the fact that you've got runes and then you also have sigils, the fact that you have all of the different combination of traits and health pools and mechanics, it's I could see it being very, very difficult. So I agree with you on the shaving part. Like, if they just shave certain aspects but more often, it'll be a lot easier to balance, because they know specifically what they're changing, how much they're changing it by, how that one aspect will affect everyone else. It's a lot easier to maintain a better balance if they do it that way. So I agree on the shaving. And like you, I don't want to wait another 4 months for another balance patch.
That's bad. We don't need that.
I don't like being hated for playing a warrior for half a year.
Dude, I hope that never happens to my class. I don't ever want to be overpowered, because then you're going to see a huge influx of guardians, and it's like it's going to go full circle. You know what I mean? And that's the last thing anyone wants, man.
Yeah.
All right, so what else we got? We went over the phantasms, how incredibly powerful those are. But again, I haven't really seen too many changes in the meta.
Yeah,
honestly.
As far as the Mesmers go, I haven't really seen, other than a lot of sword Mesmers coming out of the woodwork, I haven't really seen much as far as how Mesmers have really deviated from what they were before. It seems like it's been more of an enhancement of what was there before.
Right, absolutely. And again, that can be really good, but in other cases, it can also, again, emphasize the issues that we've been having for so long, and then just making them a little worse through those runes and sigil changes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, as far as where, like, with your Mesmer, what you tested, I'm guessing you were in SPP when you were messing around with it?
Yeah.
What setup were you messing around with? And you could probably say, like, what you liked about it, what you felt didn't really work, because I can talk a little bit about mine, but I want to know what you've been doing.
Well, I sort of just went with, again, Phantasm Shatter. High power. Again, I didn't have too much armor. I did have quite a bit of mitigation, again, through again, distortion, blurred frenzy. So you definitely have a lot of ways to mitigate damage, even as a shatter mesmer. So, but again, summoning those phantasms constantly, doing such massive damage for me, and then obviously shattering at the right time is obviously very important. But that is what's emphasized how strong it was, because honestly, for me, when I was playing, I really didn't have to worry about shattering instantly. I literally just summoned my phantasms and then just went to town, because by the time that phantasm hit that dude, he was already pretty much dead.
Yeah.
Half of his health was gone, and I'm sitting here going, Jesus Christ. So that's an issue in and of itself. But again, that's pretty much what I ran. Again, I got rolled a couple times anytime I was subjected to burst, and I didn't have any, clones to do any distortion.
Yeah.
But other than that, though, it definitely felt like I was still very sustainable through that, through the invulnerability access. What about you?
That, like, I could see the thing about spawning a bunch of stuff and then just shattering it. I mean, in a lot of cases, that's just, you don't really want to do that, because it's, like, a lot of builds will sometimes have things that give you more benefits the more clones you have out, or you want to get all 3 of your clones out, or something like that. Like, just summoning everything and then shattering them all, a lot of times it's bursty, but a lot of times it'll leave your defenses open.
Right.
Like you mentioned, you said you got rolled a few times when you didn't have access to any sort of distortion from Shatter 4 or whatever. I think you may have been running a build that was very much front-loaded, where you would burst it, you'd summon everything and then burst it, or summon your phantasms and then burst it and then hope your opponent died.
That's exactly what it was.
Well,
That's exactly what it was.
Okay, because that type of gameplay is viable, but it also it runs into the situations that you had where it's giving up a lot of defense for a lot of damage. It's very much kill them before they can kill you setup. The build I run is more. It's kind of a split between the two. I don't do a lot of front-loaded explosion of damage, and then it's different. It's kind of a different philosophy. Mine is more attrition. It's more, yeah, I'm power-based, and yeah, I have pretty good burst, but I also run a lot of stealth skills and teleport skills. My focus with the build I run is summon the duelist and the Zerker when available. Other than that, it's just getting clones out there. And then, depending on what the situation is, I'll either let them stay and then just work on my other skills, like I think it's illusionary wave, the great sword pushback, or like I'm nowhere near as good with Mesmer skill names as I am with war names,
neither.
But
dude, trust me, I'm with you.
But basically, like great sword 3 or doing a combo with the sword 3 into a sword 2. Like, I'll usually focus on those, and then depending on the situation of my opponent, then I'll go for like an interrupt shatter or a mind rack or something like that, where it's the playstyle of my build. It is the hybrid, it is the shatter phantasm hybrid, but it's a lot more reactive, you could say. I mean, there is proactivity in there with things like the setups and the phantasms, but it's also reactive in the sense that I've got stealth to react to what they're going to do. I've got interrupts to deal with when I see something big coming. It's the same. This is one of the things that's interesting about the Mesmer. You can have two builds that run similar traits or similar like clone phantasm usage, but have completely different mentalities behind them, completely different playstyles. Like yours is it's summon the phantasms, do the damage, do the shatters when you need to, and then cause your opponent to blow up. But it's clones and phantasms. Whereas mine is also clones and phantasms, but mine is wait for windows of opportunity, shatter when needed, summon phantasms and those things as necessary, but have a much more. It's less. I would say this is a good way of putting it. Yours is a lot more volatile of a build than mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yours is kind of an all or nothing build from what it sounds like, whereas mine is more
damn straight.
Yeah, mine is more sustained, more wear down my opponent, but wear them down fairly quickly. It's like I do have somewhat of a drawback where, like yours, if I don't have any cooldowns or I don't have any clones for a shatter, I'm still gonna die. But I have more ways of getting out of combat, or not. Yeah, getting out of combat, but mainly just getting out of the immediate threat with things like decoy. I have I think it's veil. It's the one where you run through it in stealth. And then I have like all my utilities are based around defensive capability. Are you running things like mirror image and
yeah?
Okay, so you're running like the ham, summon all the clones, do all the deeps, do all the shatters. Okay, that's what I was figuring, because like with mirror, I used to run a mirror image build that was heavily focused on getting a bunch of clones out, and then exploding my opponent with them like ASAP and like clone on dodge and all that. And I noticed I had a very similar problem to what you had mentioned, where I would front load all my stuff. And if my opponent wasn't dead, I was dead.
Right.
Like, I'd just go down and die.
But isn't that kind of sort of, in a sense, how it's supposed to be? In a sense, what I mean by that is that, like, if you miss your burst, or whatever the case is, and you should be susceptible to the consequences of that, whether it be getting bursted down yourself or something.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what it should entail, but something like that. You shouldn't be able to just recover instantly from that because, just because of the way you're spec'd. I don't think that's how it should be at all. So I think the risk versus reward is definitely there, especially with the way I was playing. If I missed my burst, I was done. I didn't have any clones to give me the distortion. I mean, I guess I could obviously rely on Blurred Frenzy because of the short cooldown, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But other than that, though, again, I prefer those builds. The risk versus reward builds. I find them to be a lot of fun. So I would continue playing with that if I was interested in Mesmer.
Yeah. It's Mesmer. One of the things I like about Mesmer, and this is one of the things that I really like about Warrior, is build diversity. Mesmers have a pretty decent amount of build diversity. in the sense that you can run what you run, which is the front loaded shatter build. You can run what I run, which is it's an attrition but still power based phantasm shatter build with a fair amount of stuff. You can run as much as we despise it. It's still a viable option. Things like the PU Condi build, that's still viable.
Oh, of course.
Hell, PU Power is viable. That's what I ran before the current setup. And things like sword, like Power Block, that's also viable. Like, Mesmers, just like Warriors, have a lot of different viable builds that they have access to. So that's one of the things I think all professions should have access to a lot of viable builds. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, because I know thieves are kind of pigeonholed into only a few. I think. Am I right in thinking that guardians are kind of the same way too, where you guys are pigeonholed into
Bunker
a few?
is still there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bunker is still pretty much the meta for guardians. I've been trying to. I think I may have found a build that may bring DPS guardians into the meta, but it's going to require a lot of testing, and not to mention the tree that I go into is our worst tree ever. So it's still up in the air. Like I said, it's going to need a lot of testing, but Bunker is still there. Me personally, I'm not a fan of that. I would love to have every single profession be able to do it. You know, have like a viable DPS, viable Bunker, and viable support build. That would be amazing for, this game, if you had access to something like that.
Yeah, well, not even just that, but like multiple viable builds within those categories. Like multiple viable damage builds, multiple viable Bunker builds, stuff like that. Because like with Warrior, you've got things like X Shield, you've got Condi, you've got Hamtastic, you've got.
Damn, I love that, dude. I love how you came up with that name. It's awesome.
Well,
it's awesome.
It makes sense. Going ham on people. It's using a hammer.
Literally. It literally means that,
Yep, and it's fantastic, so it's Hamtastic. But like you've got multiple viable builds within each category. Like Warrior also has things like Banner Regen. We have Shout Heals. We have just a lot of blocks. We've got all of those. And then like with Mesmer, you've got stealth builds, you've got distortion builds, you've got for damage, you've got Kai PU, you've got Phantasm Shatter, you've got Full Shatter. Like, that's what I want every profession to have. Like, I think
absolutely.
I think
that's
thieves,
a lot, though, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. Now, I think, I was going to say, I think one of the things with other professions, it might be some of their mechanics getting in the way of that. Like with thieves, they're very heavily damaged they're very heavily damage focused one way or the other, just because they have stealth, yes, but that's about it as far as defensive capabilities go. I mean, they have a few evades, but they're pretty.
Sword dagger says hi.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much either.
And short bow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can cheese the evades, but at the same time, you're not going to do much damage. I mean,
right.
An evade spam build, that's good for defense, but that's about it. Like, they have like they have a few well, I suppose thieves, if you really want to go for it, they do have a few viable builds for different roles, but for the most part, if you want to be effective in killing people, you pretty much have to do like one of 2 or 3 builds.
Right.
And
it's true. Well, most of it is still burst. That, from what I've still seen, is still the meta for them. I mean, nothing's really changed in that regard. Burst is still there. I've been running into a lot of Condi thieves lately, which is kind of freaking me out.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, not so much. Honestly, it's still just straight up burst. Condi definitely feels like it's been 1v1 situations like those servers, but not really on a team. So I still think that thieves are still kind of pigeonholed in that sense. You know what I mean? So again, that's still up in the air.
Yeah. Or like I haven't really fought many. Well, Rangers. I don't know. What do you think about build diversity on Rangers? Like Rangers are kind of this wild card. Pardon the pun.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to say because it seems like there were builds that they were just you own like half the Rangers were one, half the other, and now it seems like they seem to have, at least from what I've seen, they seem to have a bit more diversity now. Like they've got ones that are heavily oriented around. You've still got the longbow ones, you've still got the Condi ones, but I don't know. I haven't really fought as many Rangers as I'd like since the patch, so it's hard to really tell.
Right.
If they've gotten any more diversity or not.
I don't think they have, unfortunately. There's still, again, people are going to hate me for saying this, there's still the more, spammy class out there. They still have a ton of sustain, a ton of mobility. Not so much mobility, I'm sorry. Well, it depends on what you're running. If you're running like Sword Dagger, your mobility isn't terrible. It's not great. And again, their evades, constant protection uptime, good health, armor. They definitely are one of the more passive obviously AI based.
Yeah.
Classes that really, again, people may disagree, but I find it to be a little less skillful due to the fact that, the constant evades, protection after dodging, which I think is over the top. I mean, they definitely have quite a bit going for them. That hasn't changed.
Well, it's not so much like whether it's skillful or not. We can do that in the Ranger podcast, but it's more just the build variety, like build diversity for Rangers. I think they are still kind of pigeonholed because they, like you were saying with the protection and the evades and all that, they lose out on a lot if they move away from those things, and they may not gain enough by doing so. So I think, they may still be pigeonholed into like the longbow vulnerability power builds, or like the Connie melee builds, stuff like that. But again, I haven't fought enough to really be able to gauge how they are as far as build diversity goes since the patch.
Right. No, it's true, and that's the case. Again, that's what I mean, is that people are going to hate me for saying this, but again, I've fought so many Rangers, and it's almost impossible for me to land my burst, mostly because of a bunch of different factors. One, a lot of evades, so if I immobilize you with my scepter and I go in for the kill, I can't do that because even though you're immobilized, you're still evading on the spot.
Yeah.
Two, even if you end up not doing that, you still have access to a ton of protection access. So that in and of itself is an issue. So like it's one of those professions, and the Guardian is also, problem. Actually, I think every profession's like this, where you reward random dodges, and I can't stand that. You know what I mean? I hate that so much, dude. But, and again, this is to sound biased, but it's not so much more emphasized in the Guardian due to the fact that you need a lot of healing power for it to be useful. Whereas, say, for instance, the Ranger, getting 2 seconds of protection after you dodge is quite a bit much due to the fact that if you dodge, in this game, at least how I've played it, if you dodge wrong or if you randomly dodge, you should be punished afterwards. But you don't do that with a lot of these builds because you get a nice little bonus afterwards after you dodge. So you're not even punished for it. You're actually encouraged to constantly dodge. Now, obviously, you're not going to randomly dodge all over the place. You're going to look for those big hits, obviously. But when you're rewarding random dodges like that, that's another issue in and of itself.
Yeah. Now, as with Mesmer, you don't really get... I mean, the only real benefit you get from dodging, and you have to build for this, is you get a clone.
Which is amazing, dude.
Yeah,
oh my God.
It's really powerful, yes, but that's one of those things where it's like, it's kind of rewarding as far as gameplay goes. It kind of rewards it. The thing about Mesmer is you can randomly dodge and get a benefit, but the thing is you've got to be strategic with that dodge because spawning that clone could destroy another clone that's right next to your opponent in a better position, or it could. I swear it still does this. I don't know. People have told me that it doesn't, but I swear that if you spawn a clone and you have nothing but phantasms out, it's going to destroy one of your phantasms. If that's still the case, that's another thing you got to be aware of. Where it's if you dodge and create that clone, if you randomly dodge and it still does this, then you lose out on one of your phantasms, which is a pretty big loss as a Mesmer.
Yeah, it is.
So
and that's an issue in and of itself. It's more emphasized, like obviously, I've seen every single Mesmer spec run that deceptive evasion. That's fine. You obviously need those, access to those clones and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's more emphasized on the clone on death builds because obviously, it's actually incredibly encouraged to constantly dodge on that build because when you dodge and you have 3 clones out, the last one that's removed will die and proc that clone on death trait for you. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's really encouraged there in that regard. It's not so much encouraged, obviously, with shatters or phantasms, but in other builds, when you're talking about that again with the clone on death, it's definitely emphasized there.
Yeah, I thought
it's not encouraged.
I thought with the clone or not clone. You've been calling it clone on death, and I know there's a trait where you spawn a clone when you go down. That was kind of throwing me off. You're talking about the one where it's shatter on clone or like a Condi application when the clone shatters.
No, not when the clone shatters, when it dies. So you don't even have to shatter it. It just dies. So when it dies from AoE damage, it does an AoE application of one of 3 Kandis.
Okay.
Okay,
because I know for a fact that if you just spawn another clone, they fixed this a while ago, where if you just spawn another clone and erases one, I'm guessing that it's a trait you're talking about, because if you just do that normally, like in my build, if you do that, you don't get any sort of benefit from that one that just disappeared. It just disappears.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's really just emphasized on that spec when you're running when your clones die. It's debilitating dissipation or crippling dissipation. Those are the 2 traits that you're looking at in terms of the the clone death. So that's what I mean. But those who don't spec into that, obviously you're not going to get nearly as much benefit or any benefit at all.
Yeah.
So that is what I meant in terms of just emphasis on that, So.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have a problem with bonuses from dodging, like the Mesmer spawning clone when they dodge, because you can use that strategically. Like, as long as it's got some strategic gameplay or it's not really powerful, I honestly don't have a problem with random dodges being rewarded, as long as they are that. You can use them strategically.
Yes.
Warrior can't really randomly dodge, because if we use up one of those dodges, we're dead. If you use a dodge at the wrong time, we're dead. At least in the builds that I play. I mean, yeah, you can have bunkery builds, but
yeah, bunker.
But we do have a dodge trait. Now that I think about it, we do have a dodge trait that can be used fairly strategically, and this is actually part of the new Hamtaz build. Is when we dodge, if we're in the strength line, we have that first minor in strength, we get a burst of damage within a very small radius. So
that thing hurts, by the way.
Yeah, it does, and I've used it to great effect. But I
think it goes through blocking too, doesn't it?
I don't know if it goes
I need to test that.
Yeah,
I need to test it, because it hurts, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's gonna need some testing. But yeah, it's something like that where you can use that. You can either, like, if you use it but you're away from your opponent, or you dodge and you're away from your opponent, you don't get any benefit out of that.
Absolutely right.
It's just a little animation with a little pop and then woo.
Right.
But if you're up next to your opponent, you can use that strategically. You can use it as an extra bit of damage. You can use it. I've used it on several occasions as a way to down people, or things like the Mesmer dodge, things like reckless dodge, where you get a benefit from randomly dodging, or from just dodging in general, that you can use strategically. I don't have a problem with. But yeah, like the dodging with the ranger and getting protection, it seems fairly passive, as far as, like, it doesn't really seem like you can use that strategically at all. It's more just you get it and then you're more tanky.
Yes, that's what I mean, is that it's completely different from every other class. Again, that's why I didn't really want to just put a bunch of classes in that category, because it's obviously not true. But there are definitely some that just give you a massive benefit from random dodging and or a specific trait. So that is still there, But yeah. Again, it's more emphasis on a lot of other classes. Again, I even as a guardian, when you're playing a bunker guardian and you have a ton of healing power, you are encouraged. I mean, you're not encouraged to just constantly randomly dodge, but if you accidentally dodge at the wrong time, you're going to get a massive heal for you and your teammates. So it's definitely emphasized there. So
yeah. I don't know. We kind of deviated a lot from Mesmer, but I suppose it's probably part of the fact that neither of us are really Mesmer experts or anything like that. And there was kind of some other issues that came up just general PvP wise. So I suppose while it was supposed to be a Mesmer centric podcast, we don't have really enough experience or knowledge of the profession to really elaborate on it like we can with Guardian or Warrior. I mean, we still got some decent topics out of it. I mean, I don't see why not.
No, it's just nothing's really changed for that profession aside from the massive,
Yeah.
The massive freaking phantasm damage. So that's the only thing, that has changed. A lot of other builds have been still pretty much the same.
Yeah. I would say with the phantasm damage, I'd say do some tests, because you may have been getting hit before the hotfix. Because I know
right.
A lot of people were saying that was bugged. And it was the Mesmer clones and phantasms that were benefiting from it. So I guess.
No, I hope that is the case, and I hope it was a bug. I really do.
Yeah, because 8K even on that Phantasm Swordsman seems like a lot.
No, dude, it was. And again, I wasn't even exaggerating. I've actually seen the damage, and it's
8K.
8K. I'm like, what? You just poked me. That's all you did. You didn't do anything. You literally ran up to me, you jumped at me, and you poked me.
Stab.
Can I do that? Like, can my guardian just poke you and do anything? No, but yeah, that has been the. I do hope that they have changed it. I haven't tested it since. I haven't really gone against any Mesmers who have been running heavy Phantasms, so I haven't really checked.
Yeah. For all we know, they could have just had, like, everything up, and then that Phantasm just happened to get all of the benefits of the spur of the moment, but... But I'd say, yeah, definitely check, because could have been the bug.
Yeah, I hope so.
But yeah, was there anything else you wanted to mention, or because we're running up against the topic or the hour mark, so.
Are we now? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Honestly, no. Just a couple words. Like, again, the meta, it definitely feels like it's going towards more damage because, again, the rune sets and the sigils have been buffed tremendously. Like, for instance, the paralyzation sigil, that thing got doubled.
Yep.
Doubled.
Yep.
So 30% dare. I'm like, are you at? I honestly thought that was ridiculous, but. So it definitely feels like there's emphasis on more damage or more control, more of everything, not even less.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not a fan of that, but if you're going to have that, you also you can't have professions who are still tanky run that and still be even more bursty. You know what I mean? You can't have that. So I still think there needs to be an emphasis on, proper balance in terms of, in regards to that. So I'm really hoping eventually that they understand what that entails. So
yeah,
I think we'll be okay. But other than that, again, I think everything seems to be okay.
Yeah, it seems to be like, other than the overall condition issue, I think things are kind of moving in a good direction. Like,
I hope so.
Yeah, they really just need to handle the Condi situation and balance more often with more shaving. And I think other than that, like, things seem to be moving a bit in a better direction.
No, it's true, and that's good. But I want to see it happen more often. I don't want to wait 4 months for another freaking patch. That's something I really don't want.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I don't like waiting for balance to take that long. The video that actually is on now is my thief, so we should probably wrap it up.
All right, man. Yeah, man. Thanks for the podcast. I had a blast.
Yeah, I'd say go ahead and plug yourself, because, I mean, I can't, like, me plugging myself would be kind of redundant because this is on my channel. So
you should do it.
Totally.
Just do it anyways.
Totally.
Here, I'll plug you. Here, I'm going to plug you right now.
Oh, jeez. But no, check out. Boom. But yeah, go ahead and plug yourself so people know where to find you.
Okay, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a blast, man. What's the next profession you want to
do? We could do. Well, we talked about Rangers a fair amount. We could talk about Rangers next. Otherwise, we got what? We've got Necro and what?
I think that's it.
Oh, Elementals.
Oh, okay, yeah, Elementals. That's it. So we only got 2 more of those, and that's pretty much done, which is fine.
Well, no, we've got 3. We've got Necro, Ranger, and Elementals.
Sweet. That's gonna be a blast.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
And then we'll start being able to just doing like general PvP stuff, or like Warrior and Guardian stuff.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. More specialization.
Yeah.
Where we can actually
more stuff that we actually know about.
Because I don't know. Yeah, that's exactly. I'm okay with that, dude.
Yeah. So what do you think you want to do next? Ranger, Necro, or Elementalist? Because I've got my Ellie at 80. I'm no good.
Let's do Ellie.
All right. Yeah, let's do Ellie because I really do need to practice on my Ellie more. So that'll give me a good excuse to do so. My Necro and my Ranger are still low level, but I could mess around with them in SPVP. But yeah, let's do Elementals next.
All right, man. Sounds good to me. I'm ready whenever you are. Just we'll discuss the time when we go from there.
Yep, sounds good. All right, thanks. Let's see, you were going to say something else, or?
No, that's it, man. Thank you.
All right, yeah. Like, there's a weird thing with your microphone, because, like, something will happen in the background where it'll pop your mic, and I'm like, oh, he's going to say something else, and then nothing happens, like, uh-oh. All right.
It's deceptive.
It's deceptive. Like a Mesmer. Ah! All right, but yeah, thanks everyone for who happens to be hanging out in the stream. We don't interact during podcasts, so if you're looking for interaction, I apologize. It's podcasty stuff, so that's what the normal streams are for. But yeah, go check out Arken. He's over at twitch.tv/BigHeartGamer. Awesome Guardian gameplay. Awesome, just You have just some random shenanigans that happen over there sometimes too, right? With like
all day.
Your pistol thief and your kill shot warrior and stuff.
Damn straight. Why not?
But yeah, thanks everyone for hanging out. We will be back in the future, not too distant future, with Elementalist talk, and it might end up like this podcast where we didn't do a lot of it, but maybe a bit more focused. But yeah, we will see you guys then. Hopefully it'll be sometime next week, and we will see you guys then. So thanks for hanging out.
Take care.